I don't know what you expect. Like, people are gonna, they're gonna react, and they're not gonna react in a positive. And obviously, he gets caught on tape, saying some derogatory, racist things, and in this day and age where all of that is such a hot button deal. Like, I don't know what you expect. Like, people are gonna, they're gonna react, and they're not gonna react in a positive.
These aren't the words of a rival. They're the words of a man who saw something he was never meant to see. That's how The Undertaker described his chilling memory of Hulk Hogan. Not an in-ring betrayal, not a locker room argument, but something hidden, something underground. A place that Undertaker himself called asterisk, a tunnel of horrors asterisk.
Hogan? Hogan returned?
Here we go. Here we go.
Come on. And everybody realizes that Hogan wasn't the guy that he was portrayed to be.
For years, fans whispered about Hogan's scandals, the racism, the lawsuits, the betrayals. But this was something darker. Something Undertaker said still haunted him. It begins not with Hogan's triumphs, but with his funeral. Not his literal funeral, but the asterisk funeral of his reputation asterisk.
When I saw him, he was no-selling it and pushing his beer. I didn't see him. I wasn't backstage when he came.
Did you feel like giving him a hug afterwards?
No.
When Hogan appeared on Netflix, expecting nostalgia, he was greeted with boos. Boos that felt less like heckling and more like a verdict. But Undertaker, standing apart from the crowd, offered words that froze fans in their seats. He's not the guy you think he is. Those words weren't just shade. They were a confession. Undertaker had walked where no fan was ever supposed to go, beneath Hogan's Florida mansion, through a secret tunnel. And what he saw made it impossible for him to ever look at the so-called hero the same way again. To understand the horror of that tunnel, you need to remember who Hogan was supposed to be. He was the superhero in red and yellow. The man who told kids to train, say their prayers, eat their vitamins. He was America's muscle in the 1980s, selling out arenas, movies, and toy aisles with a smile. But underneath, there was rot. Backstage, wrestlers whispered that Hogan wasn't a manner.
It's just.
But it's like with my stuff, people know when you're being inauthentic.
Yeah.
Are you just there? Are you just there to push your beer?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about. I don't know him. I've never met him or anything, so I don't know anything personally about him.
He was a manipulator. While legends like Bret Hart, Randy Savage, and Ultimate Warrior sacrificed for the business, Hogan hoarded the spotlight. He pulled political strings, refused to put over younger talent, and sabotaged careers. And then came the scandals, the sex tape, the racism, the betrayals of trust that broke fans' hearts. Hogan didn't just stumble, he dug his own grave. Even Hogan's closest relationships weren't safe. His supposed friends like Bubba the Love Sponge became enemies when private tapes exposed Hogan in the worst possible ways. The betrayal cut both ways. Hogan betrayed Bubba by sleeping with his wife. Bubba betrayed Hogan by secretly recording it. And the world watched their friendship explode in courtrooms and tabloids. Meanwhile, Hogan's children grew up in the shadow of his controversies. His daughter Brooke defended him at times, but even her career was stained by association. Imagine those conversations at the dinner table, Hogan begging for loyalty, Brooke asking, "Dad, why did you do it?" Those aren't the questions of a daughter to a hero. They're the questions of a daughter to a stranger. But nothing compares to Undertaker's whispered memory. He said it plain. Asterisk, the tunnel was real asterisk. A passage beneath Hogan's mansion. Some wrestlers dismissed it as myth. Others swore it existed. Undertaker? He didn't just see it. He walked through it. What was inside? Hogan's secret life. Rooms locked away from sunlight. Archives of tapes. Memorabilia he didn't want public. Private spaces for indulgence. And, if Undertaker is to be believed, something far more disturbing. He's not the guy, Undertaker repeated, his voice dropping. The man who once told millions to live clean had built an underground world of shadows. Hogan's legacy today, carved into two halves. Above ground, the superstar, the face of WrestleMania, the man who made wrestling mainstream. Below ground, the scandals, the racism, the betrayals. The tunnel. That's why Undertaker's words strike so deeply, because they force fans to see Hogan not as a superhero, not even as a villain, but as a contradiction. A man who built an empire on vitamins and prayers while hiding his darkest truths beneath the floorboards of his home. And maybe that's why the boos hurt more than any lawsuit or scandal. Because boos are final. They're the sound of fans saying, asterisk, we saw the tunnel to asterisk. Legacies aren't only about victories. They're about truth. Hogan's truth was buried, but Undertaker unearthed it. And in doing so, he showed us that the real horror in the scandals, we know it's in the secrets, will never fully uncover. In the end, every hero has two lives, the one we see and the one they hide. Hulk Hogan's tunnel was both, and maybe, just maybe, Undertaker's warning wasn't just about Hogan, but about every legend we put on a pedestal, because the question remains, if your hero built a tunnel, what would be hiding in the dark? They told me to forget it, to never bring it up again, but I can't. Those were the Undertaker's words when the subject of Hulk Hogan came up. His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. It was haunted. For decades, fans saw Hogan as the ultimate superhero, a larger-than-life figure in red and yellow, the man who told us to train, say our prayers, and eat our vitamins. But Undertaker wasn't talking about vitamins. He was talking about something buried, something no one was supposed to see, something hidden beneath Hogan's Florida mansion, a tunnel, not just concrete and steel, but a vault for secrets, what Undertaker described as horrors. And once you hear what he saw, you'll never look at Hulk Hogan the same way again. The story begins at a moment that should have been Hogan's victory lap, a Netflix appearance meant to honor his legacy. Nostalgia. Cheers. Instead, boos. Not just playful boos, but deep, angry, unforgiving. The sound of fans saying, "We don't believe you anymore." Backstage, Undertaker was asked about it, and his response cut deeper than any headline could. He's not the guy. Simple words, but loaded with meaning. Undertaker wasn't talking about an on-screen persona. He wasn't talking about kayfabe. He was talking about the real Hogan, the one fans weren't meant to see, the one hidden beneath the surface. Literally. To understand why this revelation is so chilling, we need to go back to Hogan's rise. In the 1980s, Hulk Hogan was wrestling. Vince McMahon built the WWF around him. He wasn't just a performer, he was the brand. Hogan was on lunchboxes, cereal boxes, cartoons, and action figures. He was marketed as a wholesome American hero, larger than life yet approachable to kids everywhere. But behind that bright image, cracks were already forming. Wrestlers backstage whispered about his politics, about how he maneuvered his way into main events, even if it meant burying younger stars. Bret Hart said Hogan refused to do the honors, to lose when it was time to pass the torch. Randy Savage accused him of betrayal in both business and personal life. Even legends like Ultimate Warrior and Kevin Nash spoke about how Hogan always looked out for one-man Hogan. Fans didn't see that side, but Undertaker did. He was there, night after night, watching how locker rooms shifted whenever Hogan walked in. The aura wasn't respect, it was fear. Then came the public scandals, the sex tape, the betrayal of Bubba the Love Sponge, the racist remarks captured on tape. Each one stripped away another layer of the hero mask. By the time the Netflix boos hit, Hogan wasn't just a fallen hero. He was a man standing on the ashes of his own legacy. And that's when Undertaker decided to break his silence about the tunnel. The whispers about Hogan's underground passage weren't new. Wrestlers told stories in hotel bars after shows. Some laughed it off as an urban legend. Others swore they had been inside. But Undertaker, he didn't just hear the stories. He walked the tunnel. Beneath Hogan's Florida estate, a concrete passage stretched out like a scar. Locked doors, hidden rooms, spaces designed to keep certain truths away from daylight. Some said it was just paranoia, Hogan's way of protecting himself from stalkers or paparazzi. But Undertaker's tone suggested something else. He called it a tunnel of horrors. Why horrors? Because what was down there wasn't just memorabilia. It was indulgence, control, Secrets. There were whispers of tapes locked away. Not the ones that leaked, other tapes. Private recordings Hogan never wanted to see daylight. Rooms lined with objects he didn't want the public to connect to his clean image. Places where he entertained people away from cameras except the ones he controlled. Undertaker never gave full detail. Maybe he couldn't, but the way his voice cracked when describing it made it clear. Whatever he saw wasn't gossip. It was memory. And then there was the collateral damage. Hogan's family, his daughter Brooke, grew up idolizing her father. But imagine what it felt like when the world turned on him. When the man millions called a hero was suddenly exposed as a racist, as a liar, as a hypocrite. Brooke once defended him, saying that's not who he is. But Undertaker's words suggest otherwise. The man Brooke defended may not have even been the man she really knew. Then there was Linda, Hogan's wife of decades. Their divorce played out like a war. She accused him of cheating, of living a double life. He accused her of betrayal. Their family split apart, their children forced into the fallout. And what about Bubba the Love Sponge? Hogan called him a brother, trusted him enough to live under his roof. But Bubba secretly filmed Hogan with his own wife. That betrayal exploded into one of the biggest lawsuits in media history. Hogan won $140 million against Gawker. But in the process, the world saw just how dark his private life had become. These weren't just scandals. They were implosions of loyalty. Every close relationship Hogan had seemed to collapse under the weight of secrets. And that brings us back to Undertaker. He doesn't shock easily. He spent a career surrounded by theatrics, violence, and chaos. But when Hogan's name comes up, Undertaker's voice changes. He slows down. He chooses his words carefully, as if describing something he wishes he could forget. That's when he says it again. He's not the guy. The tunnel wasn't just a hallway. It was a symbol, a metaphor brought to life in concrete. Above ground, Hogan played the role of hero. Below ground, he locked away the truth. And Undertaker, a man built on mystique himself, admits he couldn't stomach it. He saw too much. So what do we do with Hulk Hogan's legacy? Do we remember him as the face of WrestleMania, the man who slammed Andre the Giant before 90,000 screaming fans, the hero who told us to believe in ourselves? Or do we remember the tunnel, the tapes, the racism, the betrayals, the secrets hidden underground? Maybe both are true. Maybe that's the tragedy. Undertaker's words serve as a warning. Heroes aren't always what they seem. Sometimes the mask is just a mask. Sometimes the real person lives in the dark, waiting until the day the lights go out. And maybe that's why Undertaker spoke. Not to bury Hogan, but to remind us that legacy isn't built on what you hide, it's built on what you leave behind. For Hogan, the cheers of Hulkamania may echo forever, but so will the boos. So will the tunnel. So will the truth. In the end, it's not just about wrestling. It's about life. About how easily heroes can fall. About how secrets always find the surface. Hulk Hogan built an empire above ground. But below, in his tunnel of horrors, he built the shadow of his downfall. And Undertaker, he walked both worlds. He saw the legend. He saw the man. And when he finally spoke, he left us with one chilling truth. He's not the guy you think he is. Because every hero has two lives. The one they show the world, and the one they hide underground. Picture this, the Undertaker, a man who has spent his entire career surrounded by coffins, funeral music, and death imagery, suddenly looks unsettled when Hogan's name is mentioned. That alone should terrify you. This is not a man who gets shaken. Undertaker has seen wrestlers die young, careers end in tragedy, locker rooms torn apart by ego and addiction. But when he talks about Hogan's underground tunnel, his voice lowers. His words break into silence. He doesn't laugh, doesn't embellish, doesn't perform. He simply says, he's not the guy. Think about that. Undertaker doesn't need to explain further. Those words are heavy because they come from a man who witnessed things we never will. And when someone who has seen everything tells you they've seen too much, you believe them. So what did Hogan hide in that tunnel? Maybe the truth is worse than the rumors. Maybe it wasn't just memorabilia, or private tapes, or a layer of indulgence. Maybe it was the place where the myth of Hulk Hogan finally collapsed. A place where the American hero stopped being a character and became a man who couldn't face the daylight. Undertaker's refusal to give full detail is more powerful than an explicit confession, because silence leaves space for imagination, and imagination, in this case, is darker than any scandal you've read in the headlines. When Hogan appeared in public after his scandals, hoping for redemption, he expected applause, but what he got were boos? That moment wasn't about Netflix. It was about the burial of Hulkamania. The funeral wasn't in a church. It wasn't even in a wrestling ring. It was in the hearts of the fans who once idolized him. The little kids who used to chant his name grew up, and they saw the truth. They knew about the lawsuits, the betrayals, the racist remarks. They knew the hero wasn't real. And once a hero dies in the hearts of his fans, no comeback speech, no scripted apology, no Hall of Fame ring can bring him back to life. For Undertaker, that was the hardest part. He didn't speak out of hatred, he spoke out of disappointment, because when legends fall, they don't just destroy themselves, they shatter the trust of everyone who believed in them. That tunnel beneath Hogan's mansion has become more than just a passage of concrete. It has become the perfect symbol for his legacy. Above ground bright lights, roaring crowds, patriotic music, below ground locked doors, shadows, whispers. The tunnel is not just about Hogan, it's about the cost of living a double life. How long can someone hide their true self before the truth breaks through the surface? Think about it. Every scandal that destroyed Hogan's image was something hidden, something private, something buried. But secrets have a way of clawing their way out. The sex tape, the racist remarks, the manipulation backstage, all of it was meant to stay underground, but all of it surfaced eventually. Just like that tunnel couldn't stay hidden forever, Undertaker didn't call it a tunnel of mysteries. He called it a tunnel of horrors. Because horror, in just what you see, it's what you feel. The horror is realizing that the man who told millions of children to believe in honor was living a life drenched in contradictions. And here's the most heartbreaking part: the fans. The people who once raised posters with his face on them. The kids who ran around their living rooms tearing their shirts off, pretending to be Hulk Hogan. Those fans became adults. They saw the scandals. They read the headlines. And suddenly, their childhood hero wasn't a hero anymore. Imagine explaining to your son or daughter that the man who told you to pray and stay loyal was secretly betraying his wife, his friends, and his fans. That's the real funeral of Hulkamania. It's not Undertaker's words. It's not the boos in the arena. It's the look on a fan's face when they realize their hero was an illusion. And maybe that's why Undertaker stayed quiet for so long. Because once you speak the truth, you can never take it back. His silence wasn't protection for Hogan, it was protection for the fans. He knew they weren't ready. But the moment Hogan was booed, Undertaker realized the truth was already out there. The world had already seen the cracks. All he had to do was confirm it. So when he said, he's not the guy, he wasn't tearing down Hulk Hogan, he was closing the book. He was telling the fans, stop waiting for your hero to return. He's already gone. So, what remains of Hulk Hogan's legacy? On one side, the man who put wrestling on the map, the one who filled stadiums, who crossed into Hollywood, who made Vince McMahon's dream of national expansion possible. Without Hogan, maybe there is no WrestleMania, no Attitude Era, no billion-dollar industry. But on the other side, a man whose personal choices, betrayals, and secrets left permanent scars. A man who built an underground tunnel because he couldn't live with the truth in the light. Both sides are real. Both sides are Hogan. And that contradiction will follow his name forever. But this story isn't just about Hulk Hogan. It's about all of us. Because in every life, there are two versions. The one we show the world, and the one we hide. Hogan's tragedy is that the hidden version destroyed the public one. His tunnel became a grave for his legacy. His secrets killed his heroism. And maybe that's the warning Undertaker wanted us to hear. Be careful what you hide. Be careful what you bury. Because eventually, Everything underground comes to the surface. So the next time you remember Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant, raising the American flag, or telling you to eat your vitamins, remember this. That was one version. The version above ground. But Undertaker walked the tunnel. He saw the other version. And when he tells you, with haunted eyes, he's not the guy, he means the truth was buried beneath the cheers all along. Hogan's story is no longer just about wrestling. It's about legacy, about how heroes fall, about how shadows eventually catch up to even the brightest lights. And as the screen fades, ask yourself one question: if your hero built a tunnel, what would be waiting in the dark? Because sometimes, the scariest part of a legend ain't what we saw on stage, it's what they were hiding underground.